Good evening, everyone. The hour of 6:30 having arrived, I will call to order this regular meeting of the Keene Zoning Board of Adjustment. This meeting is being broadcast live on the City of Keene YouTube channel and the City of Keene website. The video is also posted on the city website by the end of the next business day, barring any technical difficulties. Anyone wishing to view a copy of the agenda and the supporting materials will find it on the city website. To receive electronic copies of future agenda packets, please go to the homepage and subscribe to the city meetings email list. The public and other board members will be recognized to ask questions and make comments on the agenda item under discussion. After being recognized, all remarks shall be made through the chair. Anyone who wishes to address the board is asked to go to one of the microphones in the room, two of them right there, and address the board by identifying yourself by name and address prior to speaking. As a reminder, the minute taker is participating remotely this evening, and board members, please make sure to turn on your microphone when speaking. If the minute taker is unable to hear you, they will ask that you speak louder and turn your microphone on, and if she were here, she'd throw something at you. So, with that being said, my name is Joe Hoppick. I'm the chair of the board, and to my left,
Jane Taylor.
Mike Welsh. Sorry. Oh, Michael Welsh.
we have one member absent tonight, Rick Clough, so we'll proceed with a four-member board. I believe everybody, or the applicants, are aware of that. Next, we'll address the minutes of the previous meeting, May 1st and June 5th. And Attorney Taylor, do you have comments on the minutes?
Well, I think they were postponed because I had a question on a reference, and I forgot to bring the explanation with me. So could we ask Corinne to basically explain the clarification?
And which date are we talking about right now?
We were talking about now I gotta find the page. It was a comment from Mr. Fippard.
I don't seem to have the May 1st minutes in my packet.
I think they were sent later. Corinne, could you, I can't, I thought I had it tabbed, but I don't.
If you wouldn't mind just giving me 1 second so I can find it.
Are we talking about the line 60 of the May 1st minutes?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, no, that was one of them.
That's the one
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Yes. Mr. Fippard, the way that the minute taker had the minutes written is what Mr. Fippard stated. What we're assuming is that he meant was that Mr. Fippard was contacted through the Putnam's attorney, Tom Hanna. The way that it was written, it sounded like it was Jim Fippard's attorney. but
That's
it was-
correct, yeah.
Yes, it was the Putnam's attorney, Tom Hanna. And we've come to that conclusion along with the conversations that we've had with Mr. Fippard in the office.
Do you think it would be appropriate just to put a parenthetical addition to clarify that? You know, like contacted through his, and then maybe in parentheses, the Putnam's attorney?
We can do that.
Okay, that was May 1st, right?
Yes,
Is that the only change to May 1st?
I think we handled the.
We did,
the
right,
other
all right.
ones.
So, do you need to restate the changes we made previously to May 1st? Or does the record suffice?
Well, I think they're listed correctly in the June 5th minutes.
Okay.
So I'm not sure we need to repeat them again unless,
No, I don't think we do either. They're in the record. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve May 1st? Josh?
so moved to approve the minutes from May 1st with Attorney Taylor's corrections on line 60, line 564, and line 683.
All right, I'll second that. All those in favor, raise your hand. you weren't there.
And I'm abstaining, right.
Okay, so it's 3 in favor, 1 abstaining, Mr. Walsh. Now, the June 5th minutes. Attorney Taylor.
Yeah, that's a challenge for us all. I would like to make one addition, and that would be, if you may recall, when we lost internet and we took a brief break, and then Mr. Hanna finished his testimony, and then we had 2 people who appeared in opposition. And just for purposes of completeness, I would like to insert after line 640 of the June minutes, just the name and address of the 2 people who were opposed and the fact that they opposed the application.
Right, if I may, Mr. Chair, and
Certainly.
we do know who the 2 members of the public were that spoke in opposition, so we can certainly easily insert their name and address into that line that Attorney Taylor is speaking to.
Should we restate now what the minutes should read?
Sure,
I'll let Attorney Taylor do that.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think we can say John Hillock of 511 Marlborough Street and Penny Bell of 511 Marlborough Street both stated their opposition to the application.
I do recall that, okay. That'll follow line 640. Correct?
That's my suggestion where
Okay.
to insert it.
All right. Any other corrections or amendments?
Make a motion.
Okay,
Move to approve the June 5th minutes with the suggested edit from Attorney Taylor.
very good, okay. Seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries 4-0, unanimous.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
reminder to the board members, if you could make sure to turn your mics on when you're speaking, please.
Just for the record, my mic is on.
Mine wasn't when I seconded,
Uh-oh.
so Mike Welsh.
All right. Mr. Rogers, do we have any unfinished business for the moment?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Then, I guess there's some house cleaning to take care of. We did have, and I'm not, we had ZBA 2316 on the agenda tonight. That is being removed at the request of the applicant. So what we'll do is continue 147 Main Street. That's ZBA 23-16 to an August date. And the reason for that is that we don't have a 5-member board tonight.
Think we need to open this, correct, and continue it?
Oh, that's what I was doing. I'll read 2316 first. The petitioner, 147, 151 Main Street LLC, represented by Jim Fippert of Brickstone Land Use Consultants LLC, requests a special exception for property located at 147 Main Street. Tax map 584-060-3 sets of triple zeros, and is in the downtown core district. The petitioner requests to permit a drive-through use in the downtown core district at this property per chapter 100, article 8.4.2, C.2 of the zoning regulations. Now, we are aware that the applicant wishes to continue this because it wants a 5-member board, which we don't have to offer tonight. We apologize. So is there a motion Attorney Taylor?
Thank you. I move that we continue ZBA 23-16 for 147 Main Street to our next regular meeting, August 7th.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I apologize. I just need to make sure again that we have internet connection.
What IT department?
You know, anybody got an old-fashioned tape recorder?
Still working. Yep.
My apologies. We are all set. We are still connected.
I'll second.
Okay, we have,
Do I need to repeat the motion, or?
Please, just to make sure, please.
Okay, I move that we continue ZBA 2316 for 147 Main Street to our next regularly scheduled ZBA meeting, which is August 7th.
Second.
and Mr. Gordman seconded that. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. ZBA 2316 is continued to our next regular meeting then. So at this time, I'll read ZBA 2318. The petitioner, Lynn Stanford of Keene, requests a variance for property located at 334 Chapman Road, tax map 241048, 3 sets of triple zeros, and it is in the rural district. Petitioner requests to permit the building of a single-family home on a substandard lot size of 1.03 acres, where 5 acres are required, per Chapter 100, Article 3.1.2 of the zoning ordinance. Mr. Hagan, would you like to speak to this, or is Mr. Rogers going to do that? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
As stated, 334 Chapman Road is zoned rural, 1.3 acres. As of the end of June, the land use code has changed to only require 2 acres in the rural zone instead of 5. So this changed after the applicant had submitted it, so there was some significant change from 5 acres to 2 acres. This property has had 4 variances. In 2000, it was granted, on February 7th of 2000, it was granted a variance of an existing, to allow for a single-family house to be built on a substandard lot. It was granted with 2 conditions, the existing garage to be removed, and it was granted for 5 years. It expired February 7th of 2005. In January 2005, second variance was granted for a 5-year extension on that. And December 7th of 2009, it was granted another 5-year extension to December 2014. And December 1st of 2014, ZBA 1430, a 2-year with a 3-year extension was granted.
Excuse me, I didn't hear your last,
On December 1st of 2014, ZBA 1430, it was granted a 2-year with a 3-year extension.
So when did the 3-year extension expire?
The 3-year extension would have expired on December 1st of 2019.
And there's been no activity on the property in terms of variances since then?
There has been no activity since
Okay.
then.
Yes, Attorney Taylor.
I believe we did grant a 2-year extension on ZBA 19-13.
I did not see that one in the file. Did not make it. Apologize.
That would have been in the October 7th, 2019 meeting.
Right? Make sure to get that one. We'll make sure to get that one in the file.
I think that's the one in our packet. 19-13?
There it is.
Anybody have any questions of Mike? Nope. Okay, ahead, Attorney Taylor.
Yeah, there were several comments in the application about what's taken place on the property. So have there been any city inspections or permits or anything like that issued if they've put in a septic system and a pad?
There was nothing in the file currently with any building permits for a septic system or pad.
Okay, maybe I read it incorrectly, but
Hold on one second. Your turn is coming up. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Hagan? Any further questions?
I-
Yes.
Just a point of clarity, that prior variances were applied to a zoning ordinance that specified 5 acres in the rural zone, and the current zoning ordinance, the new one, specifies 2 acres. So this is a variance that would be to a less substandard type of lot than the prior variances would be.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for the administration? We will then turn to this presentation of 2318, and is Ms. Lynn Stanford here?
Yes,
Would you please come up and state your name and
sure.
give us your presentation? Thank you.
Hi. I am Lynn Stanford, and I own 334 Chapman Road. Am I supposed to continue? I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
You, well, ideally, you could speak to the criteria for evaluating your variance request.
Okay,
And, you wrote out the form.
Yeah.
And I thank you for writing so neatly and largely. And just tell us why you think the criteria are met. And we'll have questions for you, I'm sure.
okay. So I think where we left off with Mr. Hagan was that there was a variance ZBA 1913, which was active when I purchased the property, fully intending to build a home on it, and knew that it would expire within that year that I was going to be closing. I closed in February, but after contracting to buy it, life kind of threw our family a curveball. And it has fortunately ended well, but there was a lot of duress, and I was not involved in thinking of developing property at the time. One of the solutions for this was to actually purchase a home on Court Street, because I didn't have the time to go through planning and building a home. We needed a residence for a family member to recover. So now I need to sell the property. What I had noticed, and I had run Chapman Road many, many years, and noticed that there were many homes that were actually on acreage that were smaller, and I had always admired that piece of property. There is a precedent set, as you know, about 20 plus years of this specific plot being designated for a single family home. Tim and Christine Simons, I believe, were the ones who developed the building pad. They went to it was surveyed. They even had a septic system, a plan which was enclosed in the application. And it was never built, but it was surveyed and approved to be installed. I assume that life changed for them as well, and they sold the property to another owner, and who I purchased it from in 2021. And so as this property really was designed, and even though it never came to full fruition that a house was actually ever built on it, that is fully what it's intended for. It really can't serve as anything else. And so I would like to sell it so that somebody can actually, hopefully, get this development of this property across the finish line, and it can reach its full potential as a residence. And it would be a hardship for me if the board were to decline the variance, because obviously the real estate value would plummet if you can't build on it. And I really need to be able to sell it at the value I bought it for.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Walsh?
Just for clarity.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Simons prior owners, and they're the ones you bought it from.
No, there was another owner in between, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
They're the ones that held it for the lion's share of time with all the variances. I believe, and I don't know this, but I know that when they purchased the property, there was a trailer home or mobile home on it and a few outbuildings, and it was an eyesore. So they cleaned it up and they developed it because they really were planning on building. It just never happened.
Okay.
Attorney Taylor?
Yeah, I guess my only questions, and you may not know the answer, is that you have the plans and survey, done.
Well, I don't actually have them. I have a
Okay.
copy of them that was given with the closing deed and all that. I got copies of all the information. It's hard to read, especially even with my reading glasses, but I'm sure that you can find out who surveyed it. It's on the plot plan, enclosed. I don't.
Yeah, I was just curious if you had any information on the current status of those improvements.
Oh, well, yes, nothing. It's dead in the water. Nothing's moved forward because my time and attention has been, as Mr. Hagan knows, is on 326 Court Street now instead of 334 Chapman Road. I would have loved to have designed and built on 334 Chapman, but things change.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question. So is it your view that, other than a single-family home of some sort, no other reasonable use can be put to this property?
No, it's a postage stamp surrounded by two other there's like a 5-acre plot to its one side and a 7-acre plot to its other. It's completely landlocked. There's no other, you can't even get to the trails from it because the property doglegs behind it. I mean, there is
Okay.
a right-of-way behind it, but it's perfect for a private, modest home because there's a lot of space between my property and where the neighbors' homes actually are.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any other questions? None? Do you have anything more you want to add?
No.
Okay. You can go back and take your seat. I'm going to open up the meeting to anybody opposed to this application and invite you up to the table. Well, if you're not opposed, are you in favor?
May I come up and address the?
Well, I don't see anybody opposed, so if you're in favor, come on up. Let's take it that way. I told you we'd get to you eventually.
Okay.
If you can just state your name and tell us where you live.
My name is Amy Abel, and
Yep.
I own the property at 341 Chapman Road, so I'm across the street from the property that Lynn owns. And I've been living there since, well, my younger son was born in that house, and he's now 27. So I've been there for quite a while. I do remember the lovely people who lived in the trailer on your property. And I also remember the Simons when they bought the property and how excited they were about the idea that they were going to build there. There was a home, somebody owned the property between. Yes. And I was hoping I was coming here tonight to actually meet my new neighbor. That was my hope. I do want to say that while the property sits empty, it does have a driveway off of Chapman Road, which many of the local kids are well aware of. And last summer, we had a vagrant who camped there most of the summer. And this spring, I've called the police a couple of times because there have been people driving up there, loud music, pickup truck, and I admit that I do because I have a couple of lovely dogs who need their evening walk at between 9 and 10 o'clock. I'm kind of a nosy neighbor, and I have been known to actually trespass on your property with my dogs, walking up there to discover that kids have left beer cans or left trash up there. And so I do feel that continuing the variance and giving us a fighting chance of having a house on that property where there will be neighbors who will be able to keep an eye on it is probably in the best interest of the entire neighborhood. And that postage stamp piece that is your property happens to be the houses on the properties next door on either side are really well away, so that having a little house there isn't going to impact them much. Did you want to speak? Okay, so my other next door neighbor is with us tonight.
Okay.
So that was what I wanted to say.
Well,
Thank you.
for those comments. Is anybody else desiring to speak in favor or against the application? Seeing neither one, we'll close the public hearing and deliberate. Ms. Taylor?
Yeah, I'm gonna go, I guess, straight for the jugular. And I took the time to look up what we had done in 2019, and I think that one of the concerns, the primary concern we always have is what's the hardship? And I think that at the time, at least according to the minutes, and it doesn't appear that anything has changed, that we had determined this actually under Section B of the hardship criteria, that really that there was no other reasonable use for this property other than as a residential parcel, given, the zoning, the neighborhood, and all the other considerations. I also think that, and I appreciate the testimony of the neighbor, because it's very valuable to know what some of the issues are. And it certainly seems to me that it would definitely be in the public interest to have something done with this property rather than have vagrants and teenage beer parties. So, and I think it's probably well within the spirit of the ordinance, especially with the reduction in the parcel size to 2 acres, and this is what, 1.3?
1.03.
1.03, so it's not as much out of compliance as the past variances have been.
Mr. Gorman?
Just further reiterating what Attorney Taylor said, she touched on number 1 and number 2, as well as number 5. I think that number 4, the question of devaluation of property, I think the testimony from the abutter certainly speaks volumes to that. I think the property has more value for all parties surrounding it as a residence. And then just the substantial justice part, I don't think there's any negative effect to the public, and there's plenty of gain to the applicant here. So.
And I remember this from last time, and I think one of the things I remember articulating was that if 4 prior zoning boards have approved this variance and we have seen no evidence that conditions have changed significantly, that I see no reason to go against the ruling of those 4 prior boards. With the caveat that things have changed a bit, it is now 2 acres instead of 5, so we are approving a variance that's less out of compliance. So generally speaking, I'm inclined positively.
Okay, I'll go on the record saying I agree with every one of you, what you said, and I'll just add that in terms of substantial justice, there'd be no gain to the public that would justify the harm to the applicant in this view, in this analysis, this balancing test. And I agree with Mike's comments about 4 prior boards and their actions. And the only thing being changed is the acreage criteria. And I agree with Attorney Taylor that subparagraph B of criteria 5 would be appropriate here, since the only reasonable use of this property really is as a residential use, and the public interest in developing it as such a use is clear in light of what we just heard from the across-the-street neighbors. So I'm going to vote to approve this application, and I certainly would like to hear a motion regarding that. Mr. Gorman?
I would move to approve ZBA, hold on a second, 2318.
Okay.
Second.
Well, I think Attorney Taylor beat you to the second
she
there.
did.
Yep.
But I had my microphone on.
Always room for improvement. There you go. All right, we'll go through the criteria now and vote on them as we go. Granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. All those who agree with that, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. If the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed. That's unanimous. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. That's unanimous. If the variance were granted, the values of surrounding properties would not be diminished. That's unanimous. Unnecessary hardship. Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because, and I'm going to go right to B. I guess we have to do A first, don't we?
I guess we should at least put on the record if we feel that A does not apply.
Let's have a consensus on that. Does anybody think A applies? I'm not going to require a vote. We'll go right to B.
Going for B.
Going for B, all right. So let's start number 5 again. If the criteria in subparagraph A are not established or don't apply, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformity with the ordinance, and the variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of the property. Speaking to that for 1 second, I would say that the lot size is the special condition, and that I agree with the applicant that there's no other reasonable use other than a single-family residence. So if anybody wants to comment in terms of fact-finding, then if all those in favor, raise your hand. Under paragraph 5B, it's approved unanimously. And now for the main motion. All those in favor of approving 2318, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. We went from 4 hearings to 1.
Happy 4th.
Happy 4th. So is there any new business, John, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it might take us a few hours to go over it, if you have the
Perfect.
time.
Let's just come back tomorrow.
Do you want to live to see the 4th? I don't
No,
know if
because
that's a good idea.
as soon as this meeting's over, I get to start my vacation, so no further business.
Okay, that's business enough. Seeing no further business, we'll adjourn then. Thank you all very much.